This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi show number 469. This is your spoiler-free place for Star Wars community and conversation. I'm your host, Dan Z, drinking One Nation coffee out of my Rancho Obi-Wan coffee mug, thrilled to be talking Star Wars with each and every one of you. On today's show, Scott Murray and Mary Perdue join us to talk about the top 5 things that stood out to us about the teaser trailer for the Book of Boba Fett. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first.
Joining us today for a cup of coffee are 2 returning guests to the program. First, let's bring in Scott Murray.
Hey, everyone. Good to be back again. Hi, Dan.
Hello, my friend. Good to chat with you. Scott, of course, is from the podcast Comic Book Noob, ScottMurrayOnline.com, and so many, many things. Scott is one of my original friends in the world of podcasting. I certainly, we've had a lot of great conversations over the years, my friend, and this one's going to be no different.
I have no doubt.
Also joining us, she is a very familiar voice on CWK Live every Monday night. She has been on the show before, and she was, I believe, the first official guest in our CWK Pour Over Spotlight shows. Of course, I am talking about Mary Perdue.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Scott. Nice to be back. Thanks for asking me on.
Of course, my friend. Always a pleasure to chat with you. Before the show, we were talking a lot about the great things happening at Walt Disney World. Disney, we just recently celebrated 9 years of Disney purchasing Lucasfilm. And one of the great things to come out of this is Disney Plus and all the amazing Star Wars content. Well, today, the day of this recording, we got a surprise, a really nice surprise, the debut of the teaser trailer for the Book of Boba Fett. So we had an original topic for tonight, but we're going to change that to talk all about the Book of Boba Fett and the trailer. So Mary, let's start with you. By the way, mine are in order from least to most. So are either of your lists like that? Well, they don't have to be. I'm just curious.
I'm not really sure that mine is more of a, 1 through 5 or just sort of the top 5 things in no certain order that grabbed me after watching it about 15 times.
Sure. And Scott, what about you?
It probably could be at least a first list, but when it comes to these type of lists, what it is today could be very different tomorrow. So,
Yes.
Right.
But as of right now, it might be able to count for that.
Okay, very good. Well, mine is definitely in order. But Mary, we'll start with you. Give us the first one on your list.
Okay, my first one on the list, I guess I'll go from sort of 5 to 1, I guess. My first one on the list were all of the different locations that we saw. Where are we going? Where are these places? Does Tatooine have a huge city that we did not know about? I mean, there's a lot of questions about these locations that we saw.
That is a really good one. I whenever I see these for the first time, I never think about, where is this? Where is this? Naturally, it just seems like it's all Tatooine. But yeah, we're going to know Tatooine very, very well, aren't we? Over 40 plus years of Star Wars history.
Yeah, apparently I was looking at some breakdowns online shortly thereafter, just to kind of see if there were things that I missed. And there really weren't a whole lot of things to miss, but you do occasionally find these breakdowns that have a little bit more insight than maybe I have on some things. And I don't remember which city it is, but apparently there is, unlike Mos Eisley, which you wouldn't call a city, or even Mos Espa, but there was one of the areas that they named that supposedly was the closest thing potentially known on Tatooine as a city, and they were speculating that maybe that's what we saw when you got that big wide shot of what definitely looked like a city, assuming we're still on Tatooine, and I think it's easy to assume that we might be at that point. But right. I remember when the Force Awakens trailer came out, we all thought that Finn was on Tatooine in that first shot, and turns out he wasn't.
Exactly. Yeah. And that of course was on speculation.com, right?
Right.
Yeah. I don't go to that site, but I hear it's lovely. All right. So my number. Oh, actually, Scott, you're next. What's your first one on your list?
The first one on my list is that we get this show this year.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
That's great.
Even though it's barely, I mean, it's right on the edge, December 29th. But I'm one of those people that whether it's, I hate having something drop and we're all supposed to get excited. And then they say it'll be out fall of 2023. And I'm like, come on. I can't. It's hard for me to get excited about something that's going to come out for, a little bit of, what is it? Like you're waiting an entire year versus a few days. Or a few weeks. It's nice to know that we can say this is coming next month. And I apologize, but just to show what a Star Wars fan I am, I had to talk over C-3PO just now because I have the C-3PO clapper.
Oh no!
So for whatever reason, this is the most, you think C-3PO was sensitive in the movies. He's really sensitive when he's attached to your wall because he thinks every noise is a clap. And when he turns on and off, he speaks. So that's what you heard in the background for context. And now one of my
goodness.
Just to add that to Dan's noises and the sound effects that he has.
Yes. Ooh, good idea. Mason, if Mason's hearing that, I know what he just put on his Christmas list. Yeah, does that have as like a sensitivity thing so you can like turn it down so it doesn't react to everything?
That's a good question. I don't think so, but I mean, I'm sitting here wondering what in the world out of what I was saying did he think was a clap? Because he says something when you clap on and he says something when you clap off. What you might have heard him trying to say over me just a second ago was something's not right, but because now I can't see. Oh dear. And that's what he says when he turns off.
So the good news is now we can say we've officially heard everything ever on the show.
Yeah. So when I was struggling to talk there, I wasn't having a stroke. I was trying to talk over C-3PO.
That's all right. I figured it was some antics in the studio. I love it. That's great.
It was.
That's
it's
great.
Never a dull moment here.
No, as it should be. Number 5 on my list is just simple. It's just Boba Fett's ship flying by. There's something so majestic about how it cascades from left to right, that incredible sound effect. Even though I've made no secret over the years that Boba Fett was never really my favorite character until his breakout performance in season 2 of The Mandalorian, I've always liked that ship. I've been so enamored by the physics of how it rotates. And I think that a lot of that is because of the original Kenner one. But really, really cool. Really, really cool to see. And it kind of brings that nostalgia home as well. So that is number 5 for me.
Nice. I was waiting for a Sonic Blast, but we didn't get one. So
yeah, I know. I'm surely we'll get one at some point.
Surely we will.
It is true. It's very iconic, and it does generate a reaction when you see it.
It does. That was actually one of my honorable mentions. So.
Oh, cool. Well, then what is your number 4?
My number 4 are all of the creatures and aliens that we see sitting around the table, talking to or listening to Boba Fett as he is explaining what he has plans for and his cooperation with everyone and getting the underworld groups going. And then just the other general shots of like the 2 Twi'leks, what are they up to? Just different little things here and there. The Ithorian, who obviously is someone of authority, so who are all of these different former Jabba captains, and what are their entanglements, and what other underworld gangs are we going to see, like the end of Crimson Dawn, or are there any Pikes still roaming around? And just that whole question of who are they, who's going to be a friend, who's going to be a foe, what's going to happen with all of these creatures and aliens and people we just got really quick views of on this trailer.
And how many action figures are we going to buy because of it?
Well, we also found out that one of those Twi'leks was Jennifer Beals of Flashdance fame.
I saw that. I didn't recognize her
Really?
until I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I did a little on the internet too this afternoon after that. And forward to, I went, oh, I have recognized her.
Well, what a feeling, huh? That's exciting.
I see what you did there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No pun
Scott, what's
intended.
yeah, oh yes, always. Scott, what's the next one on your list?
The next one on my list was just watching these two actors who fit these roles incredibly well. Really commanding the screen presence and clearly enjoying every minute of playing these two main characters.
Just the two leads?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mara
Ming
Morrison
Na Wen does not age, does she?
No.
Just does not age.
I mean, you have to think back. I wonder how soon, and maybe we know this, how soon Tamara Morrison knew he was going to get to do something like this after, just getting the opportunity to play Django all those years ago. And here he is playing older Boba in a television series. Of course, none of us would have been able to imagine that either back then.
No, it's the way they've been able to do the connectivity of that. Really, time has been a great friend to Star Wars because we're able to
absolutely
cast these actors years and years later as older versions or different versions of themselves, and I mean that's pretty spectacular. I'm really a fan of that idea. So, my number 4, I just wrote one word: Ithorian, because, of course. What I want it to be, and what everybody wants it to be, who's ever been to Galaxy's Edge, is we want this to be Doc Ondar. I mean, of course we want this to be Doc Ondar. Now, I don't think it fits story-wise. I think this Ithorian is a little bit lighter in color than Doc Ondar, having meticulously and obsessively studied Doc Ondar every time I'm in Doc Ondar's in Galaxy's Edge on Batuu. But if it was, that would be great, because I still wanted that connectivity where we're going to get to see Galaxy's Edge and something live action Star Wars related. And I don't know if that's necessarily what's going to be what happens. Of course, I'm not going to speculate, but it certainly put a big smile on my face. Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of it surrounding him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And rightfully so. He's an interesting character. They did a lot of him in the Galaxy's Edge miniseries. Mm-hmm. And of course he was mentioned in Solo.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So we shall see. Mary, we're back to you for number 3.
Number 3, the Tusken Raiders. Are they going to be there to support Boba Fett?
Oh, yeah. Because we assume that they would work really well with The Mandalorian. We certainly have seen a lot of that, but how would that work with Fett? That's a good question.
Well, in the Mandalorian, we found out he was living with them after getting out of the Sarlacc. So I'm thinking that they're going to be a definite friends for him.
Be very good allies to have, I would say. All right, Scott, back to you. You're number 3.
Well, we're already kind of touching on some of this, but just, very much like when we saw the trailer drop for the first season of Mandalorian, the things that grabbed you were just familiarity, of some of the scenery we were when we were on Tatooine, the Stormtrooper helmets, any number of things. So I would think that that's also playing a big role here for me. Especially somebody whose favorite movie is still Return of the Jedi. So, the familiar imagery of Jabba's palace, the creatures, as we were mentioning before, that worked around him. Also, obviously, we were just talking about Boba Fett's ship, Boba Fett himself. So just that familiar place, but a new story. So just that familiar scenery and creatures was a big one for me.
I forgot how perfect, because now that you mentioned, of course, I knew that Return of the Jedi was your favorite Star Wars movie, but how perfect, because there's a lot of great nostalgia just seeping through this because of Return of the Jedi.
Yes, definitely.
So number 3 for me, I think there's a number of symbolic images in this. I love that even though we hear Tamira Morrison talking, we never actually see him talking, if that makes sense. It's like a voiceover of him doing different poses and action sequences. But number 3 for me is when his iconic helmet rolls on the ground, it's full of coins that spill out. So I've seen as much of this series as all of you have at this point. But if he is truly giving up being a bounty hunter, as he claims at the beginning of this, then what a powerful symbolic moment of, what makes the man tick and what really is going on inside his head. And if is he suddenly not as concerned with credits anymore? I don't know. Either way, I thought it was a really beautiful, poignant scene.
Yeah, I did find myself wondering what the context of that was.
Right.
And even as I read that one of the breakdowns from GameSpot, they were curious about the Republic credits. They were saying this was a traditional time in the galaxy where the Republic is beginning to run things after the Empire is seemingly destroyed.
Right.
So just the visual of Republic credits. I mean, you did see there, when you stop it, you do see the little Rebel insignia on one of those coins. So you wonder where that came from and what the story is there.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot to untangle, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we return, we'll give our top 2 moments from the Book of Boba Fett trailer and perhaps a couple more honorable mentions. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
We are back celebrating, I don't know if celebrating is the right word, but we're very excited. I think it's fair to say we're very excited. Talk about things, moments, things that jump out for us from the Book of Boba Fett teaser trailer that dropped on Monday, November 1st. And Mary, I believe we are back to you.
Well, my number 2 is a lot like one that Scott had earlier, and it's the Fennec and Boba Fett dynamic. How she is his right-hand woman, and she's there to support him in everything. We see her stepping up numerous times, whether it's to fight or to speak up, whatever. Ming-Na Wen is great, and I think she's really going to be a force to reckon with in this show.
I do too. I'm hoping we're going to get a lot of Fennec Shand in Boba Fett merchandise. If you go to on StarWars.com, if you look at the I can't even think of the name now of the little picture that is next to the website. What is that called? Scott, do you remember?
Say that again.
It's, like when you have a bookmark bar and it's like your most popular websites that you go to the most, or you can select them. What is that image called? It's next to the website. Can't remember. You know what I mean?
Yes. I should know that.
I should too. I can picture it perfectly. I've designed plenty of them. Well, anyway, the one yesterday, on Halloween in the last couple weeks of October, it was Darth Vader as a skeleton, but today it's Boba Fett. So they are officially moved all the way over to that, which is pretty cool.
Cool. Avacon.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's it. I knew it would come to us. Very good. All right, Scott.
To come now, yeah. Versus like 3:00 in the morning. It was Favicon.
Yeah, that's right. You text me at 3 a.m. Guess what?
I had no idea. I learned something.
There you go. I'm so glad. See, teachers always learn, don't we?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, Scott, you're number 4. Or number 2, I guess.
Yeah, for me, we kind of alluded to this in a couple other places. You were talking about, a Boba Fett originally just, being this cool character with this cool armor that made this appearance and, kind of took on a life of its own because of how he stood out when we all saw him in Empire for the first time, and then came back in Jedi. And then he's just had, for the longest time, with the exception of obviously books and comics and things. He's kind of had a life of his own in the fandom. So thanks to The Mandalorian and now this show, I think for me, number 2 would be just expanding his story in this universe visually on the screen, and seeing where life takes him following, as we were saying before, the events of Jedi and now the events of The Mandalorian. So just the opportunity to see, really a good, long, in-depth track of what happens with Boba Fett in his life through this series.
Well said. That's a great point. And again, I fully believe after what we saw of him in season 2 of The Mandalorian, and whatever we're going to get out of this series, people who have liked Boba Fett for years, it's really going to put a whole different spin on him, and which leads me actually to my number 2 on the list. I don't remember the exact quote word for word. I'm sure at some point in our Star Wars fandom careers, they will be iconic. But when he talks about Jabba ruling with fear, he says, "What about respect?" So I put respect in quotes. I really liked that we saw that Boba Fett does have his own unique code of honor, his own unique set of rules and guidelines that he follows. There's much more to him than money, as Leia says about Han in A New Hope. And he wants to show that through respect. And even at the end, when it seems like this is a prime time to tug on Superman's cape and get Boba Fett angry and get him to fight, it appears based on the end of this trailer that he's choosing not to fight, but rather, talk freely. Let's chat. So he really is about respect, and the best way to earn respect is to give it. And Boba Fett seems to know that based on this trailer. I think it's a very interesting dynamic, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they make that come to fruition.
Yeah, it's kind of that classic underworld type story, isn't it? The Al Capone, per se, the iconic gangster who had really the stranglehold is dead. Now everybody wants the territory. Everybody, wants their own army defending that territory. And it's what does it take to gain the most loyalty, and in this case, respect, and be able to take that over. Because you got to figure, that's one of the things he's having to deal with here is, you can sit on the throne, but right. Does anybody take it seriously beyond that? I mean, big deal. You walked in and shot his right-hand man and sat on it. Big deal. So that's probably why they're having that meeting. It's like, hey, you're sitting there, but why is that supposed to mean anything to us? So it really is kind of a classic setup for a good underworld battle type story.
Yeah, very good point.
Prove yourself by your actions, not just by what you say.
Exactly. All right, Mary, your number 1 on your list.
Well, I think it is at the very beginning when Boba Fett says, "I am not a bounty hunter." So what is he going to be? And what is he trying to prove by what he is saying and doing? Where is this series going to go? I thought that really sets the tone for what we're going to see, and what you guys were saying before, how Boba Fett has sort of taken on a life of his own. If he had not been loved by so many with that just little snippet that we got years ago, would we see him now? How has this character evolved because of fandom? And so now, where is the series going to take him? And we've always known him as a bounty hunter. So saying that he's not a bounty hunter, what is he?
And what happened to make him completely change his point of view?
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to that as well. I mean, the character stuff is the stuff that always gets me coming back to Star Wars over and over again. There's a lot of things, of course, that we love about it. The sound, the music, the action, the mythology stuff, but these characters are paramount to making this franchise last. So if they can make Boba Fett into something more than just an incredibly stunning character with amazing armor and who's a great fighter. That I'm very excited to see what that actually means.
Yeah.
Scott, your number one.
Well, it was kind of a challenge to pick 5 things because this is typical Lucasfilm Star Wars. Mandalorian was the same way. I brought up the teaser trailer that we got from The Force Awakens when we were all anticipating the new trilogy. They usually the first thing they roll out is just enough to make you be excited. It's clearly Star Wars. It's reminding you that Star Wars is coming back to TV in a couple of months. It shows you new things. It shows you things you're familiar with, get you excited, and then it's over. And I think for me, the number one thing is just the intrigue of what they didn't show us. That's my number one thing. Granted, some of that'll be covered in things we've speculated on today, but I also think, they've gotten really good, especially obviously in that second season, the way season 2 ended. They've been really good about keeping secrets and dropping in appearances of things that just make us all lose our minds. So I'm intrigued by what they didn't show us, what we're going to see maybe in that bigger trailer. Usually that second trailer, they'll show us a little more that gets us talking even beyond what we're doing now. And then there's everything we're going to see for the first time on the show. So number one for me is just the high level of intrigue of what we didn't get to see yet and what's coming.
I think I don't know what I said this on Facebook Live earlier this week, but I don't know what I expected from this show. I mean, I was certainly looking forward to, but this definitely took my expectations in a different direction and certainly raised them significantly because of what you just mentioned. We don't know what we're going to see, but just knowing that we've got the option of this and the fact that we're going to get a fresh original story, but still set in the Star Wars universe with some familiar characters and some new characters is really super cool. And you're right. I mean, it's hard to know, oh gosh, fall 2023 or whatever the years are, the seasons. So it's nice to have actual day and date and know we're really close. I mean, gosh, a couple days after Christmas and we'll be watching new Star Wars.
It's the day after Chaz's 20th birthday, as a matter of fact.
Oh, cool. That's a great present.
I know.
It's nice to have this since we're not going to have anything on the big screen for a while.
I know. I
Exactly.
agree. I agree.
But don't you think with this trailer, based on how we've seen other Disney Plus trailers for shows, that pretty much the only thing we saw were scenes from the first show?
It's a distinct possibility.
I suppose so. I hadn't really thought about that, but that makes sense to me.
They tend to do that. They seem like they're pulling a lot of things in, but then when you watch the first show of the season, it's like, oh, there was 90% of the trailer just went by.
Right. In a flash.
Yes.
The top one on my list was an easy one. It's just the opening iconic moment when it says, I'm not a bounty hunter, or I'm no bounty hunter. And they show him lift the helmet up and put it on very definitively. And then his chest plate, the red, is kind of glowing back and forth, some sort of Orabesh code or something like that, or at least it looks that way. I just love that. I mean, they're capitalizing on the brilliance of this design of this armor. Joe Johnston, Ralph McQuarrie coming up with the look of this character basically, and seeing it like this with that new paint job and that now very familiar dent on the top of his helmet just kind of sets the tone. And Tamira Morrison has such a great, compelling, ominous, gravelly voice. I thought it was just a very, very effective way to open it. And if they only had that would have been good enough for me.
No, I was going to say, I do wonder, when we're talking about his story and expanding his story, there's probably a segment of the fandom that isn't aware of the story that was created of how Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc pit. And there's probably an element of that fandom going, how's he walking around after Jabba's dead?
I mean, no one knows. No one knows
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I mean, I was even wondering how Bib Fortuna is still hanging around too. That was kind of intriguing to me.
Right.
I found that conversation rolling around the internet as well. So I wonder if, in the process of moving the story forward, if we're going to get some sort of visualization of a TV version of how he managed to get out and survive falling into the Sarlacc pit as part of this story.
I hope so, because we don't have a canonical answer to that. So that would sure be nice to see. That would sure be nice to see. So, Mary or Scott, do either of you have any honorable mentions?
No honorable mentions for me, other than pretty much any honorable mention to me would probably be attached to the 5 that I've already hit.
Sure. Mary?
Well, I mentioned the font. I mentioned that on CWK Live tonight or Monday night.
Yes.
How the font looked like the Boba Fett coloring and shading. But the other thing that I really had to look up, that the very opening scene with those weird spiders walking across in front.
Bomar monks, yeah.
The Bomar monks, yes. So I thought that looks familiar, but I could not remember why. So then after I did a little bit of internet research and went, oh yeah. So that's kind of wonder how that's going to play in as well. Or are they going to be more than just in the background, or will there be something to play along with them?
I gasped out loud. Oh, C-3PO has something to say about that.
Yep.
He remembers Bomar Monk really well.
Yeah, he does.
He doesn't remember what a clap sounds like, but he remembers everything else.
That's right. The only honorable mention I have is that at the very, very end, as they show the logo from left to right of all the different, brands that are a part of Disney Plus, as they're displaying that on the bottom of those images, the sound of Boba Fett ship coursing across the screen shows up in perfect synchronization with the reveal of the logos. I thought that was pretty slick.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is...
As we near the end of the show today, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to have a cup of coffee with me and for helping to spread the word about our Star Wars family we've got here at Coffee with Kenobi. Be sure to tune in Monday night at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/live or www.facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi and have a cup of coffee, tea, or any beverage of your choosing with me as we continue the conversation. To join us in the CWK Cafe, which is our Facebook group, and share your Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions in a family-friendly, spoiler-free place that is also drama-free, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/community and be part of the conversation, talk about this week's show, or just talk about some Star Wars. We have a lot of fun and you'll make some new friends as well as catch up with longtime friends along the way. I also want to thank all of the new and longtime members of the CWK Alliance and let you know how much I appreciate your help and encouragement. If you want to join the CWK Alliance, go to www.cwkalliance.com and sign up today. Not only will you help out Coffee with Kenobi, but you also get access to CWK Pour-Over, the exclusive weekly podcast not heard anywhere else. It's a great way to support and help out the show, and 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital to support the incredibly important work they are doing to help these brave children and their families. Plus, contributors at the CWK All-Star level can watch a video podcast of CWK Pour-Over hosted by me, Tom Gross, and Corey Clubb. Feel free to reach out anytime if you have any questions. In addition to being part of the community on Facebook, please don't forget to visit our website at www.coffeewithkenobi.com for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, videos, and so much more. If you have a question for me or just want to share your thoughts on the air, feel free to email me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com and I'll share them on the show. You can also connect with me on Twitter at Mr. Zare, MRZEHR, or on Instagram at DanZareCWK. There are also a lot more ways to connect with me and Coffee with Kenobi on social media. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/Coffee with Kenobi. Check us out on Pinterest or subscribe to our Coffee with Kenobi YouTube channel. On our YouTube channel, you can find Facebook Live video, different interviews throughout the years, highlights of video coverage throughout the Coffee with Kenobi history, and the audio podcast itself. You can order my book, The Star Wars Book, which I co-wrote with Lucasfilm's Pablo Hidalgo and Cole Horton, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million, Walmart, or anywhere books are sold. You can also find my writing on Coffee with Kenobi's website, as well as StarWars.com, where I am an official blogger there, and on IGN, where I contribute occasionally to articles about Star Wars, as well as other popular culture topics. If you are considering starting a podcast or a blog, let me know how I can help you get started and make your creative vision a reality. Be sure to check out danzmedia.com and we can get the process started. I am also available to come to your school, conference, business, or organization to talk about how to tap into your strengths and help you bring out your very best. I want to inspire you to be inspired so you can take that first step into a larger world. Thanks as always to our Coffee with Kenobi sponsors, especially MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, our travel partner and your one-stop shop for all things Walt Disney World, Disneyland, the Disney Cruise Lines, or anywhere on the planet you want to go on your vacation. Please go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel to book your magical vacation and help support Coffee with Kenobi in the process. If you like the show, please tweet out that you're listening, share it on Facebook, or invite your friends and family to tune in and share a cup of coffee with us. And if the Force is especially with you, please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Google Podcasts. Every review makes a huge difference and helps to spread the word, and I can't thank you enough for your help, for your support, and your friendship. I love so much being a part of this wonderful Star Wars community, and I can't thank you enough for all that you do for me and Coffee with Kenobi.
Well, Scott and Mary, it has been an absolute pleasure talking about top 5 things we love from the Book of Boba Fett teaser trailer. Not a lot for us to really choose from because it was very, very quick with some just great stuff to get the Star Wars water cooler a-buzzing, and it certainly has. Undoubtedly, the two of you have provided a lot more information and great conversation pieces for all of us, so thank you so much for that. Mary, please let everybody know where they can reach out to you if they want to continue the conversation.
Probably the best place is on Twitter, and it's at Mary_Perdue, Perdue, like the chicken, not the university. I'm also on Instagram, Mary N Chaz, so MaryNChazz, but it's a private account, so if you want to talk to me, you have to request.
And of course, you can always chat with Mary in the CWK Cafe.
Absolutely. Seems like I'm in there all the time.
It's a fun place to be.
It
Scott,
is.
what about you, buddy? Oh yeah, it's a very nice Star Wars family. Very, very, very. You're very much an important part of that for sure.
Thank you.
Of course. And Scott, where can everybody reach out to you and find all your great stuff?
I'm also on Twitter at Mr. Scott Murray. I have a website where I'm talking really a lot about, I suppose, not just podcasting, but just content strategy, content marketing, communication, strategic communication is Scott Murray Online. And of course, I do a little podcast with Matt Moore and Regina Davis, as I mentioned before, called Comic Book Noob, which has been going on for 5+ years now. And it is a simple podcast. We pick a character out of comics that, perhaps you only know through the big or small screen, and give you their comic book history, the very basics, the fundamentals of that comic book history in about 20-25 minutes. And then Matt, Regina give recommendations on where to start reading if you want to do that. And in fact, we're recording this week and we're talking about the Eternals.
Thanks again to Scott and Mary for joining me this week to talk about the Book of Boba Fett. As I said earlier, I really like this a lot. I mean, I knew I was going to be excited about it because it's Star Wars related, but this took it in a place I didn't expect, so this makes me very much even more optimistic than I was before about the possibility of this series and what it's going to mean to the franchise, to the story, and what it's going to make me think about Boba Fett as a character. One quick note I forgot to mention on Facebook Live is that Monday, November 8th, I will actually be giving a presentation that evening at the exact same time, so there will be no Facebook Live, unfortunately, on November 8th, but we will be back on November 15th. I am definitely going to miss all of you on Facebook Live. We have the best time enjoying talking about Star Wars with this amazing community. But November 8th, there will be no Facebook Live, but I will be back on November 15th. Have a great week, everybody. And remember, this is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.